everybody, this is Angela Savage, the daughter of IndyCar driver Swede Savage. It's time to watch Stories from Motorsports. My buddy, Doug Kenny, loves to share the journey of people in racing, and he is an amazing dude. Drivers, owners, fans, and team members, watch the SFM podcast.
Hey everybody, this is Doug Kenny from Stories from Motorsports. I'd like to thank my buddy Josh Mabe for the YouTube work he did years ago that inspired me to create this platform. I'd like to thank my buddy Victor Sifton for convincing me to get back into it after my hiatus from 2017 to 2019. I have a very special treat for you all today with an amazing journey from an amazing racing figure. Drivers, start your engines.
Here in I would say 2 weeks, but it looks like more of 1 week away. Not this weekend, because this weekend I race, but next weekend I'm actually going to be going to Talladega Speedway for my very first time. So I'm pretty excited for that.
Yeah, is it going to be in a morning race or an afternoon race or an evening race?
From what I remember, I think one of the races are at 11, and then the other race is at 2 the next day, on Sunday.
So you won't get Talladega Nights there. Get it?
Never know.
Get it? Talladega Nights. So, yeah. Let me remember, there was something. What's your relationship with your racetrack? The new Samira track. What's that like?
Honestly, it feels like a second home, because it is like a home track. I've definitely tried to grow relationships there with everyone there, and just, hear stories from people with like their folks racing and their folks, because I never had that growing up. So it's nice to kind of hear like, oh, well, my dad used to take me here, and now I'm racing, and my pops back in the day raced. So it's kind of nice to hear like all the stories. It's kind of homey, like I said. There's some moments where I get very nervous, but it's a good place.
Yeah, for sure. What's the best memory you've had in your career so far?
Honestly, I think it was my first competition race at New Smyrna. It was for the Powder Puff event that they had, or the Powder Puff race that they had, to correct myself. I did that, and honestly, I really didn't have any track experience for short track racing. I had went out one time before, and for me, it was not a good practice because I didn't know what I was doing, and then it was months later when I had gotten into the car again, and I had competed for the Powder Puff, and I got top 3. And so, for me, it was just an unreal feeling, and the fact that my son was able to watch with my folks and everything like that. He came running out, and honestly, that was my winning moment. It was seeing how happy he was that I was just up there with the other drivers that won first and second, and I was in third, not expecting to be in third at all. It was that was my winning moment, honestly.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, you want to hear a good memory I have that was probably the biggest moment of me personally for motorsports?
Yeah, of course.
I went to Nashville a few years ago for the IndyCar Grand Prix they had there, and at the street course, and in those races, it's not just IndyCar, it's other divisions of racing you experience as well. You know that?
Right.
And that weekend, I watched IndyCar, I watched Stadium Super Trucks, Trans Am 2, and GT America. And I just entered the track on the very first day. I was amongst the people that walked over the bridge and were amongst the first people to get into the stadium area with all the fields, the paddocks and all that. And I heard a lot of the Indy cars roaring under us in the bridge and all around the city, and was just experiencing a lot of fun, the smell of burnt oil. And then or the smell of burnt rubber, I mean. and then I entered the track after showing my tickets and was talking with a friend of mine that went with me to the race, or the race weekend overall for the first day. And when I was talking with her in an empty field, telling her about the history of racing, I find myself on the ground, hurting a little bit on the side, and after being hit by what was obviously a golf cart. And I stand up, and guess who's behind the wheel? Roger Penske.
Oh, wow.
You can imagine how excited I was when that happened. It was a complete accident. It turns out that when I was talking with my friend, I sort of stepped back a bit without seeing him coming, and he didn't.
Right.
And he didn't have a chance to stop. But I just remember being all excited, and I asked him for a picture, obviously, and he was kind enough to grant it.
Right.
So yeah, and then
definitely a weird experience, but definitely like a good experience at the same time.
it's like one of those stories you can tell your grandkids one day. You're like, by the way, I got hit by Roger Penske's golf cart.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it was good. It's one of those things where you're like, you don't like the pain from the bruise you had on your side afterwards, and you'd love to sort of meet them in a more planned way, but it's sort of like, I'll take it any way I can.
Yeah, right.
So if it means I have to be hit by a golf cart and not, it's like I'll take him any way I can get him.
Right.
It's sort of like that time when David Green won a Busch race after Mark Martin made a mistake and came down pit road one lap too early. Did you hear about that?
I don't think I have, honestly.
It was a funny moment. It's on YouTube, actually. Mark Martin was leading the final lap of a Busch race at Bristol back in the 1990s, and he had one lap to go, but he thought the race was over and came onto pit road, and so David Green passed him and won. And then in victory lane, David, the minute he stepped out of the car, he was like, a tough way to win one, but I'll take it.
Yeah, right.
When he would have obviously loved to have won by actually beating Mark,
Right.
So you're just sort of like, when you meet someone you like and then look up to, like in my case, Penske, it's like, I'll take him any way I can get him.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah. Have you been starstruck when you meet certain drivers, if you've met any big ones, or even...
Yeah, I've definitely fangirled.
Who's the biggest name you've met so far?
On NASCAR, I haven't met any yet. I would actually really like to meet either Kyle Busch and, of course, Haley Dagan, just because she is one of the females that are in a full-time season for NASCAR. And I just can't imagine, sometimes it's a little difficult for just anybody being out there, but I have a lot of respect for her for pushing, no matter what, people say.
Yeah, for sure. I know what you mean. I've met a lot of NASCAR drivers. I've met Jamie McMurray, Kyle Larson, Derek Cope, and about maybe 6 others, I believe, or something. I've met quite a bit of drivers, but if there's one I'd love to meet at the moment, it's probably Brad Keselowski.
Right.
I've actually grown to respect him a lot over the years because of what he's doing with the Roush Fenway Keselowski team, helping that small team, go from basically falling from contention to now getting back to championship form,
Right.
I actually met Brad about in 2017, but I was sort of indifferent at the time just because I wasn't really a big fan of his at the time, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I've really come to respect what he's doing with RFK and all that, and even with the military and the vets, and so very lately I've been really wishing that I can meet him in person again, this time as one of his biggest fans, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually wearing an RFK cap at the moment.
Nice.
So yeah, if I could ever meet him or even Chris Buescher down the road, I think I'd be happy.
Right.
I'm actually hoping to go to RFK Fan Appreciation Day down the road, so those are pretty much my goals at the moment.
Yeah. For the drivers that I have met, they haven't been NASCAR races or NASCAR drivers. And like Chelsea DeNova for Formula Drift, I completely fangirled over him just because I was like given the opportunity to meet him and I have a photo with him, so I was like, this is super for real.
Yeah. Every time I meet a driver, I get starstruck, even if you know.
I choke up. I 100% choke up, and I get so awkward, and I hate it.
Yeah, every time I meet a driver, I'll have to show you some pictures I have maybe eventually, but the biggest grin I ever had in a picture with someone was unquestionably Penske. Like, you can see the emotion in my eyes, you know? Yeah. So, how is it like meeting that person you mentioned that you got starstruck by?
Again, it just felt unreal. I wish that I had more time to actually talk to him. And he may not be a NASCAR driver or anything like that, but he still competes, he still races. Like, he has so much respect, like, from multiple different people. Like, because I know I'll never drift or do comps, like, for drift events, but just the fact that he's worked his way up and just gotten, like I said, the respect from so many people. It's just, I wish I could ask him, like, how'd you do it? Like, how do you get the confidence? How do you gear up every day? And, like, what do you do on a bad day? Stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. You got to tell me what partying after a race win is like at your racetrack.
Honestly, not too sure. Because I haven't won yet, but I'm sure, you know, like the other guys, I'm sure they all go to dinner or maybe, like, go get a couple drinks and stuff like that.
Got it. Is New Smyrna, is it connected to NASCAR in any way?
Yes.
So I'm...
Like, whenever I had gotten my NASCAR license and everything and did my paperwork and all that, they worked side by side with NASCAR officials and everything like that. So, they had pulled my payment and everything like that, so.
I see. Have you ever considered racing in the GT America series if you ever want to go to the next level?
Honestly, if somebody gives me the opportunity, I'll do anything.
Yeah, I think...
If you give me the coaching, you give me the resources, even just, you know, just believing in me, I'm willing to do anything.
Yeah, I think if you want to ever get to the NASCAR level, GT America or even Trans Am would be a good way to start, because we've seen a lot of GT drivers and Trans Am drivers going on to race in NASCAR, like Tony Ave and Connor Mosock, and also there was, I think Derek DeBoer from the TRG team, I think, raced a couple road courses in the Truck Series or something like that, so those might be good stepping stones for you, you know?
Right.
Yeah, and they're pretty powerful cars, let me tell you. I've seen them out in Nashville. They're very, very fast.
Oh, I believe it.
Have you ever raced on road courses, or are you specifically ovals at the moment?
The firm is a road course, so I've done that course. I want to do Sebring really badly. I'd probably just do it for, like, a fun event, not competing or anything like that. But that's, honestly, haven't really been able to do much of that because I've been so focused on oval racing.
Yeah. When I was in go-kart competition, I was mostly good at road courses, but I only did good on one oval track, which was somewhere in the Mesa area. But I mostly was good on road courses. Road courses are a lot of fun, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, they are.
Having to navigate your way through the corners and the turns while also maintaining your position, but there is a lot of braking, I'm sure you know that.
Oh yeah, that was a big thing I struggled with when I had went from doing little events at the firm to getting into the bomber car and going out on track for the first time for an old track. That's what I was saying when we were talking earlier, was whenever my first practice or my first time ever being in the car, I'll be honest, I kind of butchered that practice because I didn't do enough research. I didn't realize that it's not the same as when you do road course. Like, it's basically all gas, no brake. I definitely learned that because my coach had told me to get up to third, and I didn't realize when he said to go to third, stay in third that whole time and just basically lift for the turns. But I was so used to road course where basically we would downshift, hit the brakes, and then do whatever we had to do, whatever turn it was, whatnot. So I basically, I was doing that, and he was like, why were you doing that? I was like, I don't know. Why was I doing that?
Yeah, that reminds me a little bit of a funny story from my karting days. You know how in go-karts you don't have a crew chief just because the wheels are the same? You just have a spotter directing you on where to go. You know that? When I raced in karting, there was one race where I actually had to drop out early, and it was because of a miscommunication. I had a radio problem at that race, and we just got the race started, and it was the first few laps, and I asked my spotter if I was braking right, and he told me no, and he said to me, I need you to, and then after a static sound, I heard all at once, and so I was like, brake all at once? Okay. So I pushed the brake very hard and broke the suspension and also blew the engine out.
Wow! All right.
And so when I got back into the garage after my race ended on lap 3, the crew chief not my crew chief, my spotter looked at me and said, "What happened?" And I was like, "You told me to brake all at once." And he said to me, "No, I told you to brake, but not all at once."
I can see where that went wrong.
It was because of that static moment in the radio, and that was when he said not all at once. Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Please hit like and subscribe if you did so, and please continue supporting our amazing guest. And everybody, we'll see you next time on SFM.
Hi, this is Ted Warner speaking. While the checkered flag has waved for this program, stay tuned for next week for the next episode of SFM. Thanks to Doug Kenny for what he does for Motorsports.